On this episode of the Late Night Startup Show, we are speaking with Daniel, Charles, and Brandon of the world's first ready-to-drink, all-natural, nootropic supplement, Synapse. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsors, RCR Video Marketing Group, an Atlanta-based, multifaceted video production company creating compelling content to fast-forward your business, and Amazon UPCbarcodes.com, the world's #1 source for UPC and EAN barcodes. And all of their barcodes are GS1 certified, and they're highly recommended by Amazon reps. Also, use coupon code RCR Video for 10% off of your purchase. Let's get into the show. Guys, thanks for joining us. It's really excited to be here at Prototype, the co-working space, to sit down and talk with you guys. I just want you to introduce yourselves, tell us how you got here to this point and how you came up with the idea of developing this energy drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go around and introduce ourselves first, and then we can sort of weave in the story of how we all met each other and how we came to make this product. Cool. So I'm Daniel. I actually just graduated from Columbia in January with a degree in neuroscience and behavior.
I'm Brandon. I was studying biochem at UNCW.
I'm Charles Lenko. I am a fourth-year biomedical engineering student at Georgia Tech. Currently taking the semester off to focus on the business and grow it.
Awesome. So how did you guys come up with the idea of doing this? What gave you the motivation to go into this industry?
Yeah, so we actually we weren't planning on going to the beverage industry. Obviously, that wasn't something that we were sort of planning on. But I was actually in one of my sophomore biology classes at Columbia. And we were learning about the Krebs cycle, which is basically the process by which cells are able to produce energy for the body. Mm-hmm. And I had met Charles previously, and also Brandon. I met Charles working at Wake Forest Innovations, which is sort of the commercialization arm of the hospital. Mm-hmm. So we were actually interning together, and we were working on taking medical devices from the hospital and ideas that doctors had come up with, and then building a business case for them and commercializing them. Mm-hmm. And so while we were there, we sort of got introduced to the idea of creating a startup, or basically taking an idea from a stage of conceptualization through commercialization and then all the way to the market. And we actually got a lot of encouragement from our advisor at Wake Forest to sort of branch out and try doing this for ourselves as opposed to just doing it for doctors at the hospital. Mm-hmm. So from there, I was in my biology class and I came up with the idea to potentially make an energy drink that instead of using caffeine, I would actually use the cell's sort of own processes and the body's own processes to actually give you physical energy as opposed to just using caffeine to keep you awake. Mm-hmm. And so from there, actually Brandon came up with the idea to include nootropics. Brandon and Charles can speak more about that, but yeah, so if you guys want to...
Yeah, absolutely. There. So we actually came from a background starting in high school in a process called biohacking.
So did you guys all know each other in high school?
Yeah, so we were all from North Carolina. We all went to high school in North Carolina. We went to high school together, best friends since I moved to North Carolina from Athens, Georgia, actually. Then we met Daniel through the internship at Wake Forest, and that's really where we got started and had the idea of creating a company together. Okay. And that's really always been the dream. We've always wanted to own our own business, our own company. Yeah. We've got a lot of plans for the future of what we can do with this. Okay. But it really started with that biohacking. And what biohacking is essentially using nutrients, amino acids, minerals, vitamins, to enhance the natural processes of the human body, to increase performance through many aspects. They can be physical and they can also be mental. And so it was the mental side that really excited us. With the amount of workload placed on high school and college students these days, you really need the edge to get through it all and to, maintain good grades, get good test scores, get through those essays and papers and reading. And so we discovered these compounds called nootropics, which essentially enhance cognition, the process of learning, memorizing, staying focused and attentive, and essentially just being on your A game when it comes to your mental faculties. And so we experimented a lot with those different ingredients and blending them together and seeing how different ingredients can support each other and provide synergy. Ingredients that work together to produce a result that is greater than the sum of the parts. And we found that a lot of the natural ingredients worked excellently. And we said, hey, if we want to make an energy drink that enhances the body's physical processes, why not go ahead and throw in all of these ingredients that can improve cognition and mental faculties?
it's not just a sugar rush. It's actually ingredients that are effective and don't make you crash, a couple of hours later.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when did this idea come about? Was it like 2014, 15, or?
2016, actually, right? So we applied to the Georgia Tech CreateX program, which is actually how we're working here now. Sanjay, who is the sort of owner of this space, used to be one of the advisors for the CreateX program at Georgia Tech, which is basically a program that takes student entrepreneurs and they give them initial funding, and you spend the summer sort of working on commercializing whichever idea you come up with. You apply to the program, and they give you the funding to build out your business case, sort of do some early prototyping, and then go on to raise more funding from there.
Okay.
So we actually applied with a couple different ideas, and the one that they picked was basically this nootropic energy drink that we had come up with. So we went through the CreateX program, and we graduated in like August of 2016. And then for the last year and a half, we've basically been working on building out our business proposition, obviously collecting funding, sort of working on refining the product. Obviously,
lots of iteration. It took a long time to get to this stage. These natural ingredients are actually incredibly bitter, and so it took a lot of work on the research and development side of things to render them into a liquid formulation, which is very effective. It absorbs very quickly. But to do that and also have this nice, crisp, clean flavor was quite a lot of work. I think we must have done 9 or 10 different flavor iterations.
Minimum.
At least tweaking it and working with our nutrition science development group to really create a product that we think people will enjoy.
So let's say someone's listening to this and they have an idea for a drink or any product as they're going through college, but they start doing the research on it's incredibly expensive to develop it. I mean, you guys have the manufacturing aspect to all of this. What advice would you say to someone that's going into business for themselves and trying to create a product? How do they overcome that, or how do they move forward? How do they look for funding? What's some avenues and advice that you would give?
Yeah, absolutely. We were fortunate enough, as I mentioned, to be part of the CreateX program, and they provide a huge amount of fantastic support. They actually do a demo day at the end of the program where everyone basically gets together. There's like 700 or 800 people in the Fox Theater in downtown Atlanta. And you basically give a pitch for your idea to a room full of people who would potentially be interested in funding it. Obviously, reaching out to anyone in your network who would potentially be interested in an idea like this, I think you have to first sort of very carefully lay out what it is that you're planning on doing with the funding. I would say that making sure that you have a strong plan for what you're planning on doing with the funding before you try to go out and attempt to raise it is very important, because obviously that's something that people definitely look for. And I would say the sort of more airtight and well laid out your plan is, the easier it is for you to raise funding.
And I would say during the kind of like conceptual days, the early days, when you just start to have this idea, the most important or helpful thing that you could do is to just start engaging with potential customers as soon as you can and getting feedback. Because that's one of the things that's helped us iterate and change and get to a point where people actually want to buy this product.
So how did you guys go about that? How did you go about engaging with customers?
Initially, when we first started, hitting the streets and just asking people, stopping people and bothering people, we put together a bunch of different surveys and things and just collected data from hundreds and hundreds of people as much as we could. We kept iterating and getting more data and going from there.
So here's an interesting topic, because I feel like, me being in the video world, we can get feedback on a story or a script or a commercial or anything. And I feel like a lot of people make the mistake of just trying to get feedback after feedback after feedback after feedback. And they let that kind of be discouraging, because you may get a piece of feedback that says this one opinion and then another opinion is totally different, and you're like trying to meet in the middle. So how important is it to take that feedback in, but kind of picking and choosing what you actually listen to, and make sure you stay on your guys' straight and narrow?
Exactly. So it does, that's what I was about to say. It does really, you have to take this feedback and sort of incorporate it into your direction. You can't let it completely turn you around. A lot of startups experience something called pivoting, where you literally change directions and completely shift your focus to maybe a new idea or a new market. And we actually never did that. We sort of, the only shift that we made was moving towards entirely naturally sourced ingredients. But it's the same product, and it's got the same, the same customers, the same audience. We never actually shifted. Instead, we tried to just incorporate the feedback and allow us to move forward with a better product. But it does get pretty crazy sometimes when you have groups of people telling you different things. This group says, oh, you should need to move this way. I prefer it to be like this. Someone else comes in and says something else. And you really have to make the call in the end. It is up to you. You've You've developed this idea. You're the closest to it. You know where you want it to end up. So you have to take that feedback and find a way to incorporate it that'll still move you forward along the path that you decide.
Totally. And I'm sure there's times in your guys' office or conference room that, you may agree with a piece of feedback and you may not. And how important is it kind of keeping the synergy with your guys' relationship and keeping, I always say the North Star of the business in focus, even though you guys may have some confrontation at some time, because any business that has partnerships, there's going to be some confrontation. So how have you guys kind of navigated that thus far?
I would say, I think, as Charles was mentioning, we were all very good friends before we started making the business, which you can say would either be a good thing or a bad thing. I guess it depends. But
Not very good friends.
Exactly. Do you guys still hang out on the weekends is the question?
We do. We do, yep. So I would say that one of the strong suits, particularly of this team, is definitely the fact that we do sometimes have confrontations with one another. Not a confrontation per se, but definitely differing opinions about what we should do. And I think one of the most important things that you can do if you're trying to found a business or create a startup is definitely having team members. That was something that was really instilled in us by the CreateX program. There's way too much work for any one person to do by themselves.
Now, is there a difference between the team members and the owners, though? Because you guys are all co-founders in this, correct?
Yes.
So are you meaning different owners or co-founders or team members?
Pretty much any like accelerator or program like that that's going to give you some amount of seed funding to kind of fund this idea they're going to say that at least 2 co-founders minimum is kind of what they look for. One person trying to found pretty much anything is just kind of ridiculous. You're going to burn yourself out really quick.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do it by yourself. And one person's ideas are never going to be able to compare to 2 or 3 people's ideas when you add them all together. So definitely starting out, I would recommend you get at least 1 or 2 people to help you out and kind of found the team. And then as you go from there and kind of identify areas in which you need people to kind of take part in, you can build from there, and you want to look for people that fit into what you've already established as kind of the culture of what you're doing. So,
And how important is that culture?
I think that's very important, especially when you're doing a startup, because you spend 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week with these people, and you want to work with people that you can get work done with, So I think identifying people that are both beneficial to you personally as well as to the business is very important also.
Yeah.
And when you're contracting work out, like adding team members as opposed to founders, not people who own it, but people who are paid or contracted to work with you, it's very important that they understand the product, they understand the brand, they understand sort of the meaning behind it. Because you have to be careful, sometimes they might try to draw your focus away, they'll come in with their own competing ideas, but you really have to make sure that they understand sort of the intention behind it and what it's for and why everyone's doing this. Yeah. That's really key in bringing on new members, I would say.
And I've experienced in my businesses, I've started a couple businesses now that, if I bring on a team member, I can sometimes be kind of foggy in my mind because I think that they should be just as passionate and work just as hard in the long nights and long hours as I am, which is shouldn't be the case because I own it. It's mine. When those people go home, they're home with their kids, family, whatever, they want to go hang out with friends. So have you experienced any of that? Like you guys have found yourself in a spot where you kind of got to reel it back a little bit and make that team member feel comfortable, even if it means they may not be getting as much work done as you hoped?
I mean, I would say we're currently still at a stage where the team is composed of the 3 of us, and then also one of our co-founders who actually used to work at Coca-Cola. He was vice president of sort of marketing and brand strategy for a while. Nice. And it's just the 4 of us right now, so obviously we have sort of a lot of work to do, and we're all still at the stage where we're very, very passionate about the product and obviously very driven to see it succeed. I definitely think that may be an issue that we'll run into as we start to integrate and add more team members who are not obviously as invested in the project as we are. But I don't think we've run into that issue as of yet.
And that's where the culture comes into play.
Exactly,
it's super important. So how are you guys marketing this so far? What's been your key elements to getting the name out there and the brand out there?
So we've actually been working with 2 different types of companies. We're working with one that does sort of Google AdWords and AdSense. This product is actually sold online at the moment on our e-commerce platform, drinksynapse.com. And we're also, as I mentioned to you earlier, working on getting it into physical retail locations. We're in a few. So we're sort of doing a 2-pronged approach. The first is obviously online visibility. So that comes in the form of, like I mentioned, the Google AdWords, Google AdSense. And I would say you definitely need to make sure that you are, if you're not familiar with that yourselves, which none of us are obviously experts in digital marketing, I would say it's very important that you make sure you get someone either on your team or contracted to work for you who is very skilled at that and knows exactly what they're doing. to make sure that they're getting sort of the right keywords in there and making sure that when people are searching for something similar to your product, that they also see your product. Yeah. We're also working with a social media management team to sort of build our Instagram following, and we're hoping to use that to sort of build engagement and become a fixture within the social media landscape of the city of Atlanta.
Okay. And I assume these teams and companies require some funding or some monies paid out to them. Is all that money coming from the Georgia Tech? I'm sorry, what was it called?
The CreateX program?
Yeah, the CreateX.
No, so the CreateX program, like I mentioned, is some funding, but it's definitely not enough to be sustaining operations on this kind of scale.
Especially for something that has a physical product. That we
Yeah.
have to
Yeah,
make.
exactly.
Totally. So how are you sustaining operations?
So we actually, after the CreateX program, went on to raise 2 rounds of private equity, which is what we're currently utilizing right now as we're sort of getting sales up and running.
Okay. Is that intimidating, or was it intimidating to go into that?
Very
Absolutely.
intimidating, yeah.
Of course, we've pitched a lot, to secure these rounds of funding. Each round has multiple different investors who are mostly friendly. People we have prior relationships with, people we know through other people. But it is very intimidating to go up there and ask someone for money. When you say, all right, we need $100,000, and this is the terms that we're looking for. It is certainly intimidating. But if you really have a solid plan and a good vision for what you're going to do with those investment dollars, you can sort of you can rationalize it, support yourself, say, all right, I know what I'm going to do with it. I know why I need this money, and I really think that we're going to get great results with it. Mm-hmm. And so that sort of confidence can really make a difference when you're speaking with investors and people who are potentially interested in putting their own money behind a new idea, something so different from other products out there.
Yeah, looking back at the whole process of pitching to people wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be going in. So maybe that's a little bit of comfort for anybody. It's not as bad as you think.
Yeah, you definitely get better at it.
Yeah.
From the first couple of pitches are going to be rough. You don't know what sort of questions they're going to ask. You don't know what's important to talk about. But after doing it 10 or 20 times, you get into the flow of it. You understand how they work and what you can say to really make people understand the idea and why it's going to be so valuable.
And I think anyone would assume that preparation is key in that. I mean, you can go into any pitch or meeting with just the idea, but if you don't have the execution plan laid out, then,
Yeah, definitely be ready to answer any question that could come up ever about anything.
Yeah, you'll get some unexpected ones for sure.
So this is interesting. If someone asks you a question and you really don't know the answer, I feel like it's easy to just try to come up with maybe a BS answer on the spot or, try to pull something out. And how important is it if you don't know the answer to say, look, I don't know right now, but
Very
I'll get back
important.
to you.
People putting money into something want to know what you have figured out and what you don't have figured out. Honesty, I think, is kind of the biggest key thing going in when you're pitching to these people because they don't expect, someone just starting out to have it all figured out. You're not only pitching to try to get their money, you're trying to get their help as well. So they're looking for areas in which they can help you improve and trying to see if they have resources that can help, before they make their decision. So I would definitely say if you don't know something to be, outright and just tell them that you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're going to be able to read through that anyway.
Oh yeah. If you give them a BS answer and then they give you a bunch of money and that answer that they thought that you had all figured out, turns out you don't, they're not going to be very happy about it.
So how is going into these pitch meetings and rooms like Shark Tank? Is it like the show?
No, it's not like Shark Tank.
Not at all.
No. Most of them have been a lot more lax than I thought they would be. They're kind of more discussions. There's not four mean people degrading you the entire time like on Shark Tank. But it's more of a conversation and just people wanting, especially the initial meetings when you're starting to get to know someone, they just want to know who you are, kind of get a feel for what type of people you are, what type of team your team is consisted of.
So what's each individual role here? I'm sure you guys make sure to kind of define that and write that down and kind of stay in your lane so you're not stepping on each other's toes so often. So let's just talk about that a little bit because I think that plays into if you have a partnership and a relationship and you're building business with several different people, it's important to define that role up front.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say we do make all sort of major decisions together. Like I mentioned before, 3 heads is obviously better than 1 if you're going to try to do something pretty major.
Yeah.
But just based on the fact that I was located in New York, like I mentioned, while we were working on the company, I was still in New York, and the food science firm that we use is also based in New York.
Okay.
I sort of took the lead on production.
He got that dropped on him.
Yeah. So making sure all the ingredients get to the place they need to go, finding a co-packer, like Brandon was mentioning. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into getting a can of this on the table in front of you than you would think. So I've been sort of taking care of making sure that all the ingredients get into the cans in the appropriate volumes and making sure that the cans get to where they need to go.
And I kind of do a little bit of sales, I guess, would kind of be the bucket to categorize that in. So trying to identify places that we might potentially be able to sell into, trying to sell it just in general, get people to sample it, doing events and things like that.
As well as future opportunities, like sort of what sort of cultures we want to work our product into, where we think we can provide a lot of benefit to people. Brandon seeks out a lot of that information for the future, which I think is going to be very huge. You know, we're thinking about becoming popular with competitive gaming. Since, you know, a product like this, you know, it sharpens your mind. Perhaps it could improve sort of competitive gaming, esports, which is becoming a very big industry. And then, of course, students and people who need to learn and study, young professionals, that's going to be our core demographic. And I've mainly been focused on fundraising recently, since that is always a big issue to tackle, seeking out investors, trying to find investors that not only are interested in the idea and want to see it move further, but also who can provide value. Because that's very important. You know, you don't want someone to give you what they call dumb money, where it's just, you know, all right, I've got 50K, I'll throw it in, I want to see where this goes. But they really can't help you out. They actually don't maybe have a good understanding of the market or the product or the technology behind it.
So if someone came to you guys and offered you $50,000 with value attached to that, or $150,000 in dumb money, what would you rather take?
So you do have to strike a balance, you know, because there is a value in money, especially at our current stage right now, where we're really scaling our operation. We do have a lot of capital needs because, you know, canning a product, it's really not easy. There's a lot of products are sort of pill-based or powder-based, which is a lot easier because the minimum production runs are a lot smaller. But with canning, the optimum production run is between 120,000 and 125,000 units. So that requires an immense amount of upfront capital to order all of the bulk ingredients and render them into a liquid syrup formulation, and then actually have that canned. You know, there are huge lead times and huge production costs associated. So having a high degree of funding is very important in a physical startup, a consumer packaged good like this. But also the connections and the value that can be added. You know, people who know distributors, people who have a very good working understanding of e-commerce and online supplement sales. That can add perhaps even more value than the dollar amount. So there is definitely a balance that has to be struck between the value of the investor and the value of their dollars.
And is that a per situation type of discussion?
Yeah,
Definitely.
you kind of have to figure out what you're doing, what you're working with already. If you've already kind of got a team put together and you've got things figured out, you know, some amount of dumb money might not be a bad thing if that's all you really need. But, you know, when you're giving away a percentage of your company, you have to kind of weigh that against your other options. You know, do you want to give 15% away to someone who can give you as much money as you need, or 10% to someone who can give you a little bit of money and a lot of connections and value and kind of help that grow?
So are you guys trying to compete with the big guys like Monster, Red Bull, Rockstar?
I would say in a way. However, we are such a different product. We aren't an energy drink. It's a natural supplement. It's an herbal supplement. So it is a little bit of a different market. However, one of our main goals is to draw consumers of traditional energy drinks that rely on that, you know, sort of outdated and tired formula of B vitamins, a ton of caffeine, and a lot of sugar. We want to show them that there are not only healthier options, you know, with natural ingredients, no preservatives, only natural preservatives, natural flavors, but also more effective options, ingredients that are more powerful, that can offer, you know, real cognitive enhancement, improving focus rather than just making you feel not tired. So we want to show people that there are these compounds out there that can really improve their lives, these nootropics. We want to introduce them to them, and then, you know, they can make their decision. If you want to continue to consume energy drinks, go ahead. But, you know, this exists, and it can actually be paired pretty well with things like caffeine. We just wanted to leave caffeine out, to leave it to the individual's decision, how much caffeine they want to consume and whether or not they want to consume it. But the ingredients actually work very well with caffeine and with other energy drinks. I would not say it's a direct alternative to an energy drink, although it certainly can be, but rather an addition, another way to get that boost and that energy you need to accomplish all of your goals.
Yeah. Because I just assume that anyone going into a product business, there's going to be some product or industry or business that is like it, that's already bigger, or some big player like Monster that, could discourage that person from going into business for themselves. And my ultimate goal with this show is to encourage, those aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners to, realize that even though you are going against or could be going against the bigger players, you're still going to be much happier doing this and going into business for yourself. So how much is that, like that attitude of like, just have fun with it? You get into the trenches and you got to do the accounting and pay attention to all the things that aren't fun. But at the end of the day, is there a difference between, stress and good stress?
Yeah, I would say it definitely gets very hard at times, as you were mentioning, unbelievably hard sometimes. But I would say that the thing that carries you through all of the sort of, like you were mentioning, the accounting, like ingredients being delayed, whatever, what have you, is always the dream, like you were mentioning, of creating something new. The idea of taking something that existed only in our minds and bringing it to consumers so that they can actually go to a store and pick it up off a shelf and drink it.
Yeah.
I think that even when things get very difficult, no matter what type of startup you work in, the best way to sort of go about combating that stress is to imagine or think about the fact that there's a person who now has a solution to a problem that they had that didn't exist before, and that solution exists because of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and seeing people like engage with a product that you made just very, very rewarding. When someone like really likes it, even if it's just one person, it's really nice to see that the idea that you had in your head that you made into an actual thing, someone else likes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a piece of advice that I would definitely give. Don't get too far away from the customers. It's easy, when you're starting to you move away from the customer discovery and ideation phase into the business phase to sort of distance yourself from your customers. Yeah. But you really have to engage with them. That's going to not only provide you with motivation, but engaging with those customers, it really shows you, why you're doing this, and it continues to allow you to develop that. You can learn so much just from hearing the response from a handful of people who really enjoy the product.
So, I assume that when people think engaging with the customers in 2018, they think social media. Like that would be 90% of their thought process is on social media. So speaking of that a little bit of, does it only mean social media, or how else are you engaging with customers?
I think social media is a really good way to engage with more people, but I think that the more people that you engage with at that scale, the less value you have per engagement. Mm-hmm. Speaking with someone in person is a lot different than having a comment or something sent over Instagram or Facebook. I think there's a level of, cordiality that is met when you're communicating with someone on the internet that it doesn't exist in person, where you can get better feedback and more accurate feedback. Because it's very easy to leave a comment anywhere about anything, anytime, but to talk to someone in person and get their feedback and listen to them and talk to them requires more thought for both you and them, and I think that it's very helpful.
I like that. I think that relates to the difference in dumb money and that money that actually comes with some value behind it. So there's a saying that I'll wait to give my opinion on, but everyone's heard it. It's so cliche. Is if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Do you guys disagree with that?
Completely disagree.
Okay.
100% disagree.
Good, because my opinion is if you do what you love, you're going to work harder, longer hours, you're going to sacrifice more, and eventually, hopefully it pays off where you don't have to do that anymore. But that's just a saying that in an entrepreneurship platform that everyone hears, and it's almost this fairy tale type of mentality.
Yeah, if you're in a startup, you're not going to be doing what you love every second of every day.
Yeah,
you're wearing too many different hats and you're doing too many different things to be doing what you love, So you're going to have to do some things you don't want to do. You're going to have to do some things you really, really don't want to do. But if it's for a goal that you have, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, totally. So I during these interviews, I always say, let's get a little more practical, and I typically go into, marketing and social media and things like that. But, this is our first people that we've had that actually have a product on camera. So practically, why did you choose cans over like pills or powder base?
Right. So a lot of our competition in the nootropic space are primarily pill-based supplementation, those little gel capsules that you swallow. Or perhaps a powder that you mix into a liquid. And that's how we got started on nootropics, was using products like that, and we just found them not to be convenient or enjoyable. Mixing some horribly bitter synthetic compound into a glass of juice or water and downing it in the morning before class.
Chugging down 10 huge pills every morning. It's not very fun.
Yeah, and no one wants to carry around 6 different bottles of pills in their gym bag, trying to find out, okay, it's 2 o'clock, I better take this one now.
I think there's also a stigma associated with pill-based supplementation. People kind of looks more like drugs, so they think it's more like drugs, and it's not good for you just because it's a pill.
Right, yeah, it elicits the memories of like caffeine pills when those were more popular, taking a bunch of these to stay up all night. And so I do agree that pills have that sort of implicit stigma. But as a liquid formulation, not only is it convenient and enjoyable, to drink, there's a consumer experience. You've got the light carbonation, you've got the flavor and the smell, and you hold the cold can in your hand. So it has that whole experience. But from a more practical standpoint, as a liquid formulation, it absorbs so quickly. Nothing has to break down. There's no dissolving of the gel capsule before your small intestine can finally get to those nutrients. As soon as you consume this, it immediately, even at the second it touches your tongue, the ingredients start to pass into your bloodstream. And a lot of our ingredients will improve that blood flow and allow those ingredients to get to the brain where they're actually active as soon as possible. So you get that immediate boost, which allows the customer to associate that feeling, being on your A game, being focused and attentive with the product within minutes of consuming it. And we think that's really important, and that's really what sets us apart from all the other nootropic products that are out there on the marketplace right now. Even the carbonation can affect how the product is absorbed and how rapidly it can enter the bloodstream. So all of that might seem like, let's see how we can be different. It actually does improve the product as well, which we found to be very effective as a liquid formulation.
Awesome. Has your target audience changed from when you guys first started? Not necessarily saying you guys changed it, but have you found that it's resonated with another audience than you initially thought it would?
I would say we're still learning. We are such a new company, such a new product with few customers. We are growing, but a small number of customers, relatively speaking, right now. We're exploring. We want to keep our options open. We want to see where it resonates well, who really enjoys the product. Something we initially didn't think of was actually fitness. Health and fitness lifestyle. These people are familiar with supplements. A lot of them use daily supplements, and students not as much. And so they get it. They see the supplement panel. They see the good ingredients. They know what some of them are, because it's about a 50-50 blend. Half of these ingredients are enhancing cellular energy, physical energy, and then the other half are mostly mental focused. So they're familiar with these physical ingredients and how they can invigorate the body. And they've enjoyed it a lot. I always tell people when they're, when do I use this? Well, before you're studying, of course, is what I tell my fellow Georgia Tech students, but also before you go to the gym. It's great actually as, a pre-workout. It really gets the blood flowing, your energy up, and that focus and mental energy can also make a big difference in sports and other athletic events as well.
So with a physical product, I think a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners these days are focusing just 100% of their sales online. They're not necessarily thinking about brick and mortar, versus you guys are going into places in Midtown and around Georgia Tech and stuff and getting into brick and mortar while focusing on online as well. So kind of speak into that a little bit of how important is it to focus on both? Is it important to focus on both? Do you think that online is going to be more important later on or right now? Or do you think, brick and mortar is going to be the end all be all, when it comes to selling your product?
We can really reach our target customers, the people who are going to want to try this and will enjoy using it. Online is going to be the easiest way to reach them. But the energy world moves entirely through retail. It's convenience stores. They push the most energy drinks of all. And if we can get the shelf space, which we've actually had some success doing in these small privately owned locations, like just the gas stations attached to Chevron and other gas stations as little convenience stores, they'll give it a try. They're pretty open to that, actually. They'll put it on the shelf and say, all right, let's sell some and see how it does. And around the Georgia Tech area with all the students especially, it's been doing very well. So we do think that the opportunity for distribution there is going to be huge. Once we can secure a distributor and get it out to like 100 locations, we think the sales are really going to increase in the physical side. So I would say at the beginning, online is going to be a huge opportunity to grow and to make a product that is at least in some sense, nationally recognized. And then from there, the real success will come through physical distribution.
Yeah. And all that to say, you don't have to necessarily focus on one or the other. You can do both.
And yeah, exactly. And that's what we are doing. We are pursuing both simultaneously. And it drives us crazy sometimes,
Yeah.
bouncing around. All right, we got to fix this. We got to get the online store ready. We got to get on a call with Amazon. Oh, we got to run over to the gas station, make sure they have the point of sale materials. It does kind of pull us in two directions, but we think we have to pursue both to be successful.
Well, I mean, I just want to close things out with any last words, any last bit of advice, or anything you would like an audience to know about you guys. But obviously, keeping in mind the core purpose of this show is hopefully one person will take away something from this and inspire them to create their own business and go into business for themselves. So, any last thoughts?
I would just kind of say, closing out, that if you really want to start your own thing and do your own thing, then just definitely go for it, because if that's what you want to do, it doesn't matter what job you could find, what amount of money you could make doing anything else. If you're the type of person who wants to make something and put it out in the world, you're not going to be happy not doing that. So even if you know that it's going to be hard and difficult, at least give it a try and see if you can make it work.
And to tack onto that, I would say explore your resources, see what's out there. There are so many communities of entrepreneurship that are growing, especially here in Atlanta. It's really becoming sort of a movement almost. So there are lots of options out there. There are accelerators, there are incubators, there are these great programs that can provide you with a lot of help and assistance along the way and a lot of learning. So I would say definitely explore those resources, get out there and really see what's available to you. It can make a big difference in the end.
Awesome. Yeah, and I would say, I mean, we picked probably one of the hardest things to possibly do, which is take
I don't recommend getting into the beverage industry. That's your idea. But
yeah, I was going to say, I mean, we picked one of the hardest things that you could possibly do, which is take like natural supplements and render them into basically something that has the form factor of an energy drink. And if we're able to be sitting here with you at this table with this product in front of us, I think anyone who has an idea, if you think it's a good idea, obviously if you believe in it enough and you want to do it, I think you should just go for it and do your best. And if you really believe in it, I think good things will come.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for sitting down and taking the time to talk about your guys' experience in building this business. I think a lot of people will take some great value of it. Like I said, it's kind of the first product industry that we've interviewed thus far. So great content. Last thing, just give people how to find you guys, how to maybe purchase the product, and Instagram, social media, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Our Instagram is the same as our website. It's Drink Synapse. Okay. So at Drink Synapse. On Facebook and on Instagram, and then drinksynapse.com is the name of the website. You can pick us up in a few retail locations around the Midtown area. You can also pick us up at the Georgia Tech Weekly Farmers Market on Wednesdays. We are selling on our website as well, and we're working our way into sort of Amazon Prime and fulfillment by Amazon, so the shipping costs will be coming down very shortly. Anything else, you guys?
Oh, how do you like the effects you've been drinking?
I like it so far. The taste is very good. Like I said, I've tried like the organic energy drinks from stores and stuff, and they taste so bitter. This definitely doesn't have that bitter taste to it.
You have no idea how hard it was to not get that bitter.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there's drinks like Monster that I drink a lot, and their taste is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But there's something that goes to say that this has good ingredients. It's healthier for you. It doesn't have the caffeine. I'm trying to get away from caffeine as much as I can, because I found that when you drink so much caffeine, it has the reverse effects. Like your body is like, oh my God, I can't handle this. And that may just be me personally. But this definitely, with the health benefits and the natural ingredients, I think it's knocking the ball out of the park. So good job.
Thank you very much.
Sure. So yeah, thanks for joining us. And guys, please feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher. We're on all of those platforms. And make sure to follow these guys. Give them some love and support. And if you want the drink, then follow them on Instagram, their website, and go into the stores in Midtown and pick it up. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's really good.